Hello and welcome to the European Parliament. My name is Catherine Fior and I'm delighted to welcome Branislav Škripek MEP, member of the Civil Rights and Civil Liberties Group in the committee in the European Parliament. Branislav, yesterday you organised a meeting in the Parliament for a group from Northern Syria. It was very wide-ranging. It includes Kurds, Syrians, Arabs,
yes.
And
Turkmens,
Yazidis. A very long list, and it had the very hopeful title of "A Future for Democracy in Syria." Now, in this very bleak conflict, can we look forward with some optimism towards a future solution?
Yes, very much. I'm observing this project for more than 3 years. In November 2014, first time we had here a representative of the exile people who were in connection with Syrian natives, and they suggested Christian groups living there in Northern Syria, in canton called Rojava, which was on the borders with Turkish and Iraq. They suggested the others, like Arabs, like Yazidis, like Turkmens, and some other groups. Let's come together, let's do something. And they created so-called democratic self-administration. Simply they said, we are abandoned by central government. We are not fighting against them. We are not on the side of revolutionists. We go our way, and they created the basic levels of governance, democratic self-administration, on the basis of European values. This is an amazing thing to hear in Middle East, that they are based on equality between all people, on religious equality, human equality, on self-defense, and they decided to build up the country. They even managed to defeat ISIS on their ground, and they pushed them out. And even through the course of 3 years, 2 other cantons joined this project. So now they are operating on 30% of geographical land, which is a huge part, and they are a real strong power, but unfortunately they are not respected.
One of the things they mentioned at your press conference yesterday was that they wanted proper recognition for this group in the peace talks.
Yes.
And from what you say, they've got a good case to make for that representation. Do you think there's any support for that from EU member states, from the EU itself, and maybe even further afield in the United States and other players in this conflict, Russia?
The thing is that the main power in the whole democratic self-administration are Kurds, Syrian Kurds, not Iraqi Kurds, not Turkish Kurds. And this is, I think, for many people a problem. But this is a really peaceful part of Syria, and they are neglected completely and left out from the UN Geneva peace talks, which is, to me, such a shame, because this is not a small group. I say they now operating on 30% of geographical land of Syria, and they declared not to fight against Assad's regime or Assad's government, let's say, nor to be against the revolution guards, but they say we want to live in peace in a newly established federative model of Syria. So far, it has to be said that they were neglected and abandoned since their first uprising first steps to do something since 2014, but silently. US government started to support some other people, some other parts. They managed to fight against ISIS and other terrorist groups. They managed to keep peace in their piece of land, but now, and this is the true reason, the invasion against Afrin is invasion against them. So we used Kurds and Arabs and Christians and other groups there to establish a peace. But now, all of a sudden, because of noble political reasons, they were attacked. They were used like a cloth against ISIS. Now they are attacked, and we are silent.
What we've here described by your group yesterday was something that amounts to war crimes. So how can we see the EU responding to this?
It's so difficult to make expressions to such a complicated situation as it is. But I think was it last plenary session, we had the plenary debate on this topic, and Mrs. Mogherini was quite strong about this. And it has to be said, we as EU cannot just stay silent. We have to say something, and for sure history will prove these are war crimes. We cannot doubt about this. So EU should be worried, and we have to interfere somehow.
Following the chemical attacks in Douma, the eyes of the world have been drawn to Syria's very distressing situation. What does your group say about what sort of action they expect of largely Western partners in response to those chemical attacks?
Right now I was just following the news, and it seems like our big players are giving out a very almost aggressive warnings, even remarks which sounds very like animistic or giving strong messages. But it still seems to me, even then, they will try to keep peace. Right now it sounds like Russian side want to send human power there just to be present because they expect American side will not attack. What to say to such a complicated situation? There is no good solution, but the use of chemical weapons was heinous act, and we have to condemn it. We have to speak about this. We have to find out who did it. Vision could be to support at least that part of Syria which really operates with terms of democracy, and not only operates, they really do it.
Federica Mogherini, the High Representative, has often talked about the measures for reconstruction.
Yes.
And your group pointed to the support that they would like to have in the areas of education, health, the relief sector. Even given the high level of conflict, do you think it's possible to intervene at this stage?
Yes, because we have to tell ourselves, let's start where we can. And minimum, this part of Syria is a peaceful part, and there is 4.5 million people living now. Many of them fled, many of the previous number, but now thousands of people can come back. We need to help them. Second, let's take an example of Hungary. Whatever they have now, their ups and downs, they help there on the spot. They help rebuild churches, they help rebuild hospitals, they help rebuild schools. Also, EU successfully managed. I visited a number of refugee camps in Lebanon, in Jordan, in Iraq, in Syria. I was in Italy, I was in Greece, and I saw how much European Union managed to take children without parents, and children who, even though with parents, but lost in their nihilistic way of life, we managed to make them, to put them into schools and give them at least daily routine and at least some vision for the future. This was, as I got the numbers, minimum 200,000 children in war zones, in refugee camps, in Syria and Iraq and other parts. We managed to give them a school education. And I think this is something probably not enough visible in the eyes of the public. So we can help, yes, and let's start where the peace is now, and certainly Democratic Federation of Northern Syria is a peaceful part.
Branislav Škripek, thank you very much indeed.